name is Kenzie and welcome to a watercolor tutorial. If you want to just focus on the painting and not worry about the sketching, down below in the description you'll find a link that will take you to my website where you can download the sketch and the ebook for this particular painting. So this painting is a lot of fun. We focus a lot on the wet on wet technique where we get to watch what the colors do when they touch. We also focus a lot on the reflective aspects of these droplets. Why don't we get started and have fun with this painting? So this right here is my Winsor Newton watercolor paints that I have taken from the tube and put it inside this palette that I got off of Amazon. I have a tapping cloth right here. It's always good to have one. That way you don't have excess water on your page. I also have my 2 water cups right here. One I use for cool paints and one I use for my warmer paint colors. I also have right here my dryer. I like to use this to speed up the process between layers. These are the brushes that I use. These are the silver black velvet. I have size 12, 4, and 8, and these are the round tip brushes. So these are also some other brushes that I like to use as well. If I have a large area like a landscape, I'll typically use this brush. And this oval brush that I have right here is really good for florals and other things as well. So I do like these 2 brushes. I don't use this kind of brush often, but it is good to have if I'm painting bricks or other details in my painting, so I do have this one handy. These 2 items I use all the time. This is called masking fluid. It acts as a cover, so wherever I put this masking fluid, let it dry, I can paint over top, can make sure my painting is 100% dry. I can scrape off the masking fluid and that area will be left untouched. So I use this a lot, but make sure to use an old brush because it does get kind of goopy and you'll end up with a broken brush. I also like to use bleed proof white. This is a very highly pigmented white, which will sit on top of any type of color. I'm using this painting as an example. I always like to have painter's tape on hand. I like to paint down my paintings. It's easier to 1, film, and 2, also just keep everything from moving around and it getting a little messy. It also helps to protect your desk, which you'll see mine is very worn. So it definitely does help with that. So we're going to do the wet on wet technique. I actually have some muggy water. It's not clear water that I'm going to be putting down first. You know what I should do really quickly? I'm going to put some masking fluid down. That'll probably just take a minute or so to dry. So while that's drying, I'm going to continue on the other side with my water. For the background, like I said, we're going to do the wet on wet technique. And this is where we have a wet surface, which is my water, and we're going to apply another wet surface over top. So I'm going to apply my indigo blue for my background, and I'm just going to let it naturally bleed wherever it wants to go. I'm going to do some lighter parts of my indigo. I'm going to do some darker parts where there's a lot more concentration to it. I can paint over my masking fluid. I'm going to come in with a darker green, so I'm going to mix some sap green with some hooker's green. I'm going to actually mix in a little bit of indigo in there, and I'm going to come around and apply that. And this is how we create soft blends in the things that appear in the distance. So I'm just going to be mixing different tones. I'm going to switch to a different brush as I get closer to my leaf right here. I can even come up with a damp brush and scoop up different areas as well, just to give it a little bit of a highlight in the background. But I feel pretty good about that. I could try it, or I can naturally let it dry, which is what I'm gonna let this do. I'm gonna naturally let this one dry and just bleed. So I'm gonna pause my video and come back to it when it is dry. So now that this is dry, I can come in and paint my leaf. This is gonna be the fun part. So I want this to be a lot brighter than the background that I have. So I'm going to make some room in my palette. I'm just gonna grab my napkin really fast and clear off this section that I have right in here. It just had a little bit too much blue. I'm gonna mix a little bit more yellow into my sap green so I can get a nice light color. And then in this little section over here, I'm gonna put a little bit of yellow to it. Okay, so I have a lot of water in there, so I'm just using my wash. And I'm gonna come in now and I'm gonna apply this wash absolutely everywhere. So if you're using beginner paper for this one, make sure that you're moving quickly for this next part that I'm gonna do once this whole area is cleaned off. I'm gonna do a bit of a scooping technique with my little raindrops that I have on my leaf. So that's why I'm using quite a bit of water here so that I have enough time to do some layers and blending. Okay, so I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna scoop up my little raindrop right here. I'm gonna come along my middle with some darker tones. And I'm gonna let that bleed out with the wet on wet technique. I'm gonna come in and just do some veins coming away. I'm gonna come in this corner and give it some shadow. And I'm just doing the wet on wet technique again. We're really gonna be perfecting this technique today. Leaving some nice spaces as well. With that original color, I'm gonna come in with a little bit more yellow on this side and then even over here. Let that blend a bit. I'm gonna scoop up over here a little bit. So how I scoop is I get rid of everything on my brush. I then tap my napkin so it's just damp. I'm also gonna scoop right down the middle in here as well with the damp brush. And then I'm gonna start mixing in a little bit of an indigo color. And just above my scoop, I'm gonna come in and blend out a little bit. And then on this side, I'm gonna come in with a darker color. I'm gonna let that bleed. I'm gonna come around my little raindrop in shadow. I just used a little bit of indigo here for this one. I'm going to use just a hair of indigo right in there as well. Gonna let that blend. With this indigo again, I'm going to come in. I'm just going to keep adding my layers, letting my paper just start to get a little bit more dry. So it's going to be a lot harder for the paint to go where it wants to go because of the less paint and water that's on my page. But I can just keep coming in and just keep putting more vibrant greens down in different areas. I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna scoop one more time. Kind of got And I'm going to do a nice highlight right in here. So I'm going to scoop up for a highlight in here. Okay, so I am going to dry that because I like the layer that I have down. Okay, so now that that's dry, I also just took off my masking fluid in here. I can come in and I can start to just layer and start building up my layers for my raindrops. So I'm going to work on this one. I just mixed up a little bit of a light blue, and I'm going to be leaving some white space. So down towards the bottom, I'm going to leave a little bit of white space, and then towards the top as well. And then while that's still wet, this is not dripping wet. It's not crazily over wet. It's just a little bit wet. I can come in and mix a little bit of indigo and let that spread out. And I can just touch different blues on the inside for the reflection. I can use this damp brush to kind of blur out my edges instead of it just being so concentrated in such a harsh line. And then for my little raindrop right here, I can come in with a nice green color. And same thing that I did down here, I'm going to get rid of everything on my brush, and you're going to see I have to blend out that line. So I don't want it too dark. And I'm going to go a little bit lighter up here. So I'm going to come around towards the top. I'm going to leave lots of white space towards the bottom, and I'm going to blend out this line right there. Okay, I'm gonna let those dry. So in the meantime, I'm gonna start working on a little bit more layers. So I'm gonna mix up a little bit of an indigo with some hooker's green, also some sap green, and a little bit more indigo, so it's super dark. I'm gonna come in and just start to add a little bit of shadows. So I'm gonna come in with this thick line. And then while it's still wet, I'm gonna touch this line and I'm gonna drag it out. Whenever I see I'm literally just dragging paint, I'm going to tap my brush to get rid of it. I'm going to keep touching that line until I have a gradual blur. I can touch it while it's still wet in different places just to kind of let it bleed a little bit more. And then on the other side of the highlight, I can mix up a lighter green, but I can definitely come in and just do the same as before. So where I did the scoop, I'm gonna just come with that darker green, leaving a little bit of space for the vein in the middle. I'm gonna get rid of everything on my brush and I'm gonna start blending out this line. And then from this line, we can come in, just do some nice veins. So now that we have the veins down, we can come in and we can just shadow right underneath our veins, blending out any harsh lines that we have, just creating a little bit more texture in here. Okay, we have entered the middle zone that I like to call it when we are teetering at the point of almost being finished, but then still feeling like you just don't love your page or what you're creating. We're just gonna hang on in there, and I'm gonna add a little bit more of a darker green right in here. And I'm gonna let that dry before I come in and do my veins. I'm just gonna blend it out with some water. And down here, I want it to be a little bit more yellow. I'm just gonna blend out that line a little bit. It's allergy season over here when I'm painting this painting right now, so it's making it tricky for recording because I'm constantly pressing pause because I keep sneezing and coughing. Okay, I am actually going to dry this with a dryer. And back here, I want it to be a little bit darker too. So with the more layers, the more it's going to come to life. I'm going to go around this little drop that I have. I'm definitely going to go around over here a little bit more. Maybe do a second layer. Darkness. Blending it out. Blending out my harsh lines. Blend, blend, blend. I'm gonna dry. Actually, nope, not yet. I'm gonna come in here a little bit more and just add a little bit more darkness right in here. Okay, so for this side, when we're doing our veins, we have to be very careful and go super, super light. We don't want to go as dark as what we did on the other side, especially around this highlight. So you're going to see I'm going to start to do my veins, but I'm going to go nice and light and basically not do any veins coming over the highlight. I'm going to blend it out with some water. That's too dark, so I want to blend it out with some water. Blend with some water. And now I'm going to come in over here. And I'm going to kind of work in sections just a little bit. Just to create a little bit more depth. I just applied a deeper, more vibrant green. And I'm leaving the top to be kind of light. And so I'm leaving my first layers to kind of shine through towards the top. adding a little bit more yellow into this side. I'm gonna try this. So I'm gonna come in and just make this little gap in between a little bit smaller for the vein. I'm gonna come in with a more pigmented green, especially in here, so I can just give off a little bit more shadow. Just fixing up my lines a little bit. I'm gonna blend out these lines that I just did. They're a little bit too dark. Add a little bit more indigo in here for the vein. Especially because this area is just like a little bit more darker anyway. Blend out this area right here. Okay, I'm gonna dry this. Okay, so I'm gonna come in with a little bit more of a yellow green, and then I'm just gonna blend it out a little bit more. And then same thing for in here. I'm gonna come in with a little bit more of a pigmented green, and I'm just gonna blend it out a little bit more. I'm gonna come in with a little bit more indigo. Just gonna shadow under this one a little bit more with a little bit of a lighter green. I'm not doing indigo. Just kind of shadowing it just a little bit so it stands out a little bit more. So I also have this white gouache. It's Dr. Phil Ooh, Dr. Phil Martin's Bleed Proof White. I really like using it for making areas glossy for this kind of painting. So I'm going to come around the edges. And I'm just going to create a little bit of a shine. I'm going to come in here and just add a little bit more coming off of my leaf area. Just to make it look like there's just more drops than what we see. Just giving it a nice highlight. Just doing like little blots. I'm gonna bring in a little bit of this yellow, sorry, this white in here. And then I'm going to come around the ones that I just did, just give it a little bit of shadow so that it stands out and looks like it's there on purpose. Okay, and there we have it, a loose interpretation of a water droplet on a leaf using watercolor and a little bit of gouache to get the reflection of the water on the leaf as well. I hope that you all had fun using the wet on wet technique and a little bit of the wet on dry technique where you're just applying layers in details. If you like this video, if you learned a little bit or you just enjoyed kicking back and watching me paint, please subscribe and enjoy other videos just like this one. Happy painting, friends.